thanks again for coming on. Because I know how much you love this.
Well, I worry I don't sound supportive.
Adam said you sound as supportive as somebody can be who has been kind of drugged through the ringer. And that was his nice way of saying that I start a lot of things and I work on a lot of things, and some of them work and a lot of them don't.
This is just so far out of my comfort zone, one thing. And it's not that I'm not supportive, I'm tired.
Yeah, well, you're tired and then right now you're sick. So
Yeah.
it's like a combo.
Yeah.
So that's never fun.
Nope.
But hopefully our kids stay down this time. Was it? Nice.
I spilled that all over myself.
Was it last time that they kept waking up?
Yeah.
Or have we done one since?
I don't think we've done one since.
You haven't been on actually in a while.
Yeah,
I've done pretty well with getting some guests. And I was looking at my calendar. I don't know that you're going to have to be on again until maybe middle of November.
It's great for your listeners.
It might even be middle of December that you have to come on.
Perfect.
Because we have a lot of people coming up through the pipeline. A lot of new guests. And I think like 1 or 2 repeat guests. But a lot of them are going to be newer guests coming on.
Well, that's good.
But then after that.
For everyone.
Yeah, for everyone. Then after that, we're kind of... it's of course at what is that? Ground zero,
Square one.
Square one. That's what I think. Well, again, like you said, it's late. I'm tired. Square one, because then we're out of family at this point, as far as like new family.
Who said they would do it?
Who said they would do it? Yeah, we have a couple other family members, but none that are willing to come on the podcast yet. That might change one day, but for right now, we only have a few people. So, but we've been kind of running through our spooky books this year for November, October. Man, this is already going to be rough. That's okay. Between the two of us, we have like 1.5 brains. I feel like we're both operating at like 3/4.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, October is the spooky month. And I've been reading a lot of books. The only ones that I still have left are, I have a Stephen King episode left to record. And I've been cranking through those. Except our Libby rental or whatever for The Stand ran up today.
I showed you that. You can renew it.
No, because there was somebody already behind me in in the queue. So I
Yeah.
had to give it up.
Just
I know.
Google it.
No. Well, I started The Shining today, so I'm going to go through and finish the whole Shining, and hopefully by then I can get it back. Otherwise, I might have to just buy it. But that one is so long.
Yeah.
It's 48 hours. It's a long one. So, but those are the only 2 that I have left. And I only have like 8 hours left in The Shining and then like 20 hours left in The Stand. So I've been cranking through books recently, like way cranking.
I'm excited to listen to that one. I've been listening.
Have you really?
I have.
Which ones have you listened to?
The one with your mom and the one with Nicole.
Just those 2?
Yeah.
Those ones are good.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're good guests.
Yeah.
I'll have both of them on again for sure.
Yeah, you need to.
Honestly, I'll have anybody on at this point, but I will have both of them on for sure. They're higher up on my list of people that I'd like to have returning guests. Have you done any sort of spooky books this month outside of Frankenstein?
Well,
And I know you didn't even read
Okay,
Frankenstein. You read it like 2 months ago or something.
yeah,
like
so
that.
I've read it twice, and it was a couple months ago. I actually think it was a year ago because I picked it for book club last October.
You told me it was a couple months ago.
No,
Oh man.
I said it, but I didn't have time to listen to it. Also,
Because your Thursday Murder Club book came out, and that is.
Well, yeah, but we already own the audiobook, so I was going to re-listen, but I am told Paw Patrol or nothing else.
Paw Patrol or Die. The car.
Paw Patrol theme song or nothing else in the car, so she doesn't really let me listen to Frankenstein.
Although the guy who narrates Frankenstein kills it.
Yeah, but it's not
It's
not Pop Pop Boogie, so.
Okay.
So I don't really get to listen to books. And plus you were listening to it, so it won't let you listen at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think I remember enough. I looked up the summary, but I don't know how you got through high school this way because I'm like sweating.
Yeah, there's not even a grade at the end of this.
I like don't know how you did this.
Dude,
I mean, reading the summary, there wasn't anything that I was like, oh, I forgot about that. So it's not very long. There's not like
it's not
a ton going on.
No, and there's like no side plots. Like it's very linear of a book, which I like because it's very easy to follow. Of characters. Yeah, not a ton of characters.
So I don't
one
feel
theme.
Super unprepared, but a little panicky.
No, this is my jam, right where you're sitting right now.
I don't know how you did this.
Teacher would be like, "All right, write an essay," and I'd be like, "All right, I'm just gonna pull this out of who knows where."
Well, I have read it twice, so hopefully.
Yeah. Have you read any other spooky books?
Yeah.
For October?
So this month I also read A Long Fatal Love Chase by Louisa May Alcott. She wrote Little Women, and so this one.
Did you finish Little Women, by the way?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Because you didn't love it.
I did not love it.
Yeah.
I like the movie better.
Oh. Nice. But this book, was this one better than Little Women?
Yes.
What was it called again?
A Long Fatal Love Chase.
Never even heard of it.
So it wasn't published till after her death because it was considered too dark. So it's about this like young woman who is like living on a remote island with her grandfather and this like world traveler. This man comes and she like elopes with him. Like they like get married, and she finds out he's like really cruel and really mean, like he kills people and feels zero remorse. And then she finds out he's already married with a kid. And so she runs away and he like stalks her and like won't let her go, like all over Europe.
Dang.
And then it ends very tragically.
So wait, who wrote that book?
Louisa May Alcott.
When was she alive? Like, because those are older books.
Sure.
Those are older books, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Was she pre or post Mary Shelley?
I'm looking that up.
Because Mary Shelley is old.
She was born in 1832 and died in 1888.
So post Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's around Jane Austen.
I don't think I realized.
No, this is post Jane Austen. Oh, and it is post Charlotte Bronte, who wrote Jane Eyre, because
When's Jane Austen?
Jane Austen died in like 1817. So I just said.
Okay, so Jane Austen's slightly older than Mary Shelley.
And Charlotte Bronte died in 1855. So she was around the same time as Louisa May Alcott.
They overlapped a little.
Yeah, but Louisa May Alcott like cited Jane Eyre as like one of her inspirations because Jane Eyre has some like spooky, gothic, creepy vibes.
Okay.
And so yeah, that one was good. It was I liked it more than Little Women. It was creepy.
Interesting.
I like a creepy classic.
A creepy classic. Have you ever read Dracula?
I haven't. But I've heard that's a good audiobook.
That was on my list of potential books for this month, but it didn't make the cut because I don't think anybody wanted to read it with me. So I think that'll probably be my creepy classic for next year, if this is still going by next year. That's the goal. But yeah, definitely on the list of books that I want to read. But I had to read Frankenstein because I do have the sign for Frankenstein that I made.
It's one of the first ones that I recommended to you that you loved.
Yeah, I think it was book number 4 that I read, like coming back to the world of books. I think it was the 4th book that I read because I read it about probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Probably a year and a half ago. That's when I like started barely reading books again, and not very frequently, but still read a couple. And so this is my second time reading it. I loved it. Loved it just as much this time as I did the time before. It was not at all what I was expecting going into it.
I know. I was like, you should listen to Frankenstein. And you're like, Frankenstein?
All I could think of was Young Frankenstein. Have you seen that movie?
Is it like claymation?
No.
I don't know if I have.
Young Frankenstein is by the same, what's his name? It's going to
There's one that's...
drive me
Is it
nuts.
It's called Frankenweenie. Never mind.
Frankenweenie. Nice. There are a lot of Frankenstein movies
well, I was
and
researching
TV shows,
for this.
and none
Doing
of them
the
are
Brandon Blackley method. It said that Blade Runner is a Frankenstein adaptation.
What?
That's what I read. So they like are creating their own race, which is what Victor Frankenstein was trying to do.
Huh.
So like a loose adaptation.
Loose adaptation? Interesting take. One sec. This is going to just drive me nuts. I need to get this. Young Frankenstein. Oh, it's a Mel Brooks movie. So it's by, the same person who did like Spaceballs and Blazing Saddles and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
have you seen any of those movies?
Not my genre.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, as you can imagine, it's not super accurate depiction.
Well, I was going to ask,
but that's
where
all I
do you
think of.
think this modern idea of Frankenstein came from? The like classic green blockhead, black stitches across the forehead, like from Hotel Transylvania, scared of fire. Like, where did that come from?
I have no idea.
Like, where do you think that came from? Because that is not at all what like he's described as.
I know, and for somebody like
his name isn't even Frankenstein. Like that's
No.
the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor's name is Victor Frankenstein. I don't know, because in my opinion, like if there's like a really good story and they're trying to adapt it to like a movie or something like that, or a TV show, you'd think that they would just try to maybe make it a little scarier.
Yeah, why have they not made like a realistic version of this book?
But even like the modern, or even like the movie adaptations and the TV adaptations of the green blockhead monster, like you were talking about, who's afraid of fire and just pillages
and like
towns,
dumb,
and is dumb, is not nearly as scary as the actual Frankenstein in the book.
When we did it for book club last year, I remember you guys were invited. The boys were invited.
Because we had all read it.
Yeah.
We were all...
Because I told you to read it, and then you told Adam to read it, and I think Matthew had already read it, and he loved it.
It's Matthew's #1 favorite book.
Yeah. Yeah, Matthew loves it.
Adam loved it.
I think it was Adam and Quinn who had like found a picture of what someone had made what the monster was supposed to look like, and it was terrifying.
I don't even think like just the looks are more terrifying in the book than in the movie, because in the book, like, he's a monster. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like a patchwork human being. Like, his nose is like wrongly disproportioned. His eyes are disproportioned,
stretched out, and you can see like the muscle underneath. And
yeah, like he looks disgusting. Mm-hmm. Like the way it's described,
huge,
humongous, and just misproportioned everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like patchworked everywhere. He doesn't look like just a big-headed version of a human that's green. You know what I mean? Like he looks like a monster. But not only is he scarier looking in the book, I think he's scarier as like an individual in the book.
Because he's intelligent.
Because he's way smart.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to not be afraid of just like this big bumbling idiot.
You light a match and he's gone.
Yeah, who just smashes things like Frankenstein smash. And like all of the movies and everything that it portrays him as. Whereas in the book, he's really smart. And like, that's what makes him so scary. He's like spiteful.
Yeah, I was going to say spiteful, vindictive, like betrayed. Mm-hmm. So that kind of another thing I wanted to ask. So this quote that you have on your poster, like one of the most popular quotes from this is, "Beware, for I am fearless and therefore powerful." Like, what do you think? Like, why is that a scary quote? That is kind of scary.
Yeah, I think it just kind of plays into like that idea of like, I've got nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. You know, like somebody who truly is like, who's got nothing to lose, like how far are they willing to go? And I think that is kind of to the point, again, that makes him scarier.
Yeah.
You know, like in every Frankenstein, anything that I've seen, Frankenstein's just a monster who's, just angry and, because he's a monster, he's destroying things. Whereas in the book, he tries to be good and then basically loses.
Is rejected.
Yeah, loses everything and then has nothing left to lose. And so he's even more, like he's even scarier. You know, and I think that's true. I think that's, I mean, generally true for everybody. You know, if you don't have anything to lose, you start going a little bit crazy. You know, I think that's why like families and, you know, having people around you is so important. You know, it kind of grounds people a little bit more. You look at kind of the people who in the world maybe go nuts, you know, like there's lots of stories of, you know, serial killers and things like that, but not a lot of them. I mean, occasionally you get like complete sociopaths, but most of the time it's just people that are alone and have nothing left. You know, they've been rejected by society. They've been rejected by, you know, maybe their work. They don't have, you know, family to go back to. And it's like, well, what else is going to happen at that point? You know, like they've got nothing left to lose. And so you might as well kind of make that, and then that makes them that much more dangerous.
Yeah, I think people need to belong and feel connected. Like the desire to connect with others is a fundamental need.
Yeah. And that's what makes also the monster so scary is not only does he not have that, but that's what he's attacking.
And that's what he wants.
Yeah. He's like, and he knows that that's kind of the way to make somebody miserable because that's why he is so miserable.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about that all the time that, you know, really it's the connections and love that he's missing. That's the reason why he's so bad.
There's a quote from it I want to look up.
Yeah, I had one too.
That he says about that. Let me find it.
Let me find my notes.
When he says, I have love in me the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other.
Yeah. Did you think Frankenstein was bad?
He was dumb. Like Victor Frankenstein.
Oh man,
are you assuming you don't mean the monster?
I meant the monster.
The monster.
Man,
oh my gosh.
I know that's not his name. That's bad.
The monster.
Yes, the monster. Do you think he's bad?
I remember having this discussion in book club, and I think I was of the opinion that it is not his fault. It is Victor Frankenstein's fault. Because Victor Frankenstein creates life and then abandons it. And who was supposed to teach this monster right from wrong? And then everyone else is like, no, he should know that you shouldn't kill people. And like, I mean, I don't know. Everything, no one ever agrees with me in book club. Like everybody disagrees with everything I say. It's disheartening sometimes. But I think you are responsible for what you create. You know, children, what you put on the internet. And I think Victor Frankenstein was responsible for this monster, and he didn't even spend a second with him, like teaching him how to be good. And I mean, maybe we are born with this innate sense of goodness, but in the nature versus nurture argument, I kind of lean more towards nurture. I think.
Do you think that's true for everybody? So even like kids, when you look at kids and you see the little rotten pieces of crap walking around or rotten pieces of crap on TikTok or Instagram.
I mean, there are exceptions. Like there are always exceptions.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times the kid at school that's acting out is having issues at home. Like, I think, you know, I think a lot of times your parents can, like, not always, like, I'm not saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's
people have their own choices, but
the exception is not the rule. But there's trend lines with everything. So you
have to be taught the rules and taught how to, you know, engage in society and how to control maybe not the best urges that you have, like, you know, maybe don't bite that other kid, like, you know, like, so I I don't know if I think the monster is bad. Like,
Yeah.
I think he has first, he's fearless, so he's powerful because he has nothing. I think he is lonely and brokenhearted, and because he is not given love, it turns to anger. So I lean more towards it's Victor Frankenstein's fault. And I don't think anybody agreed with me. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but...
No, I tend to... I mean, maybe you are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong too. I tend to kind of lean in that direction too. If I see little piece of crap kids or whatever like that, I don't really ever think like, oh, man, that kid's just rotten down to its core. You know what I mean? More often than not, I think it's just a lack of parenting or bad parenting or not involved parenting. And I do think that it is.
And it's not always parenting. Like, I mean, that has a huge effect. But, outside forces like pornography, media, like what?
Video games.
Yes, video games.
Different things like that. Like basically anything that you get your sense of direction from.
Yeah, what you are absorbing and learning from, especially in those like developmental years, which, I mean, this monster is technically not a child. It looks like a grown man, but he was just born, just created, and is just abandoned, like left to die. And
so if you think it's I don't know the answer to the question. And the question just barely came to me. So if you're like, I don't want to answer that, go for it. But do you think, I don't know, do you think that Viktor Frankl should have been held responsible for the deaths of the people?
Kind of, yeah.
So then do you think then that like parents should be held responsible for the actions of their children?
See, that's what's hard.
Yeah.
Like, to a point. I think you are responsible to a point, and then once you've, done what you can, people make their own choices. But like this monster was just born. Like this monster did not have years to learn. Like his first experience, like when he's created, is being abandoned and rejected and, not given what he is like innately craving.
Yeah. No, I definitely think, I mean, I would agree with you. I really thought that was one of the kind of overlying themes of the book, and maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe it's just something that I'm pulling out of because of the stage we're in life. We've got 2 young kids. We're trying to figure out the whole, parenting thing, how to raise kids that are going to be constructive, not destructive into society. I feel like there's also like, just trying to raise kids who aren't entitled pieces of crap. I feel like there's so much of that in this world. Yeah. And so maybe I'm just trying to pull things out of the book that pertain more to me at my current stage in life. But that's what I really got out of the book, was kind of the power of creation and then the responsibility of creation.
Yeah.
Those were kind of the 2 major themes that I saw. Was one, like, the power to create should not be overlooked. And it's something that you can kind of get lost in. And then it's something that also, I don't know, it's something that's kind of all encompassing. And I think that creation can be, the creation of a family kind of being the ultimate goal. But I think that can also be the creation of anything. I think creating is something that kind of is a driving force in a lot of people's lives, whether it's art. Sorry. I was about to say, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's, creating content, whether it's creating, jokes, you know what I mean? Like creating friendships. That ability to create is really what drove the first portion of the book, Victor Frankl, to abandon all else and just focus all in it. Because it's kind of like this all-consuming drive in his life, was that I want to create, I want to create, I want to create. It became all-encompassing, and then it was after you create kind of the responsibility. What were you going to say?
I was just thinking a lot, like reading quotes and spark notes, and even the last time I read it, just kind of like the internet, how easy it is to create nowadays. Like it takes like 5 seconds. Well, I mean, it takes most people 5 seconds to make a TikTok or a reel. It literally takes me an hour and a half whenever I make one for my dad's Instagram.
I was trying to today to like think of reels and things to do. And I'm like, man, I am just
some people just pump them out. Like I see vloggers and like Instagram influencers who do like 7 a day. Like get ready with me, day in the life, go shopping with me, make lunch. Like every minute of their day, they're pumping out like so many videos.
That sounds awful though.
I know. Just how easy it is to create. And
I think it's cheapened it.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes.
Are you a quality over quantity person?
Yes, I think I am.
Okay.
Because sometimes I'll see like a funny video and then I see it again, like redone so many times.
That drives me nuts. I hate when people just rip content, because that was one thing when I was trying to come up with an idea for a podcast. I knew really that I wanted to do a podcast. Mm-hmm. I wanted to give it a shot. I like the idea of just talking with people. I enjoy learning. And so I was like, well, I'll do a podcast. And I was like, well, I'm not going to rip what every other.
I think you can be inspired by someone.
Yeah. But doing the same exact thing, like there are so many people that have tried to recreate the Joe Rogan or recreate the Lex Friedman or whatever. And they, some people are really successful because they have a unique take on it. Jocko kind of does the same thing, but he focuses on military aspects and kind of his experience with leadership specifically. There's different ways to do it, but there are a lot of, millennial white men who just try to recreate the exact same thing. And they're like, oh, I'll just talk to interesting people and pull their stories and it'll just be a podcast. And I just don't, like you said, I think it cheapens it. Yeah, you
did your own thing and you're talking to boring people.
No, it's not boring people. It's books. We're focusing on reading and we're trying to do something kind of similar, but learning through reading.
Talking to commoners.
Yeah, talking to the
peasants,
the basic folk. No. But just trying to put my own unique spin on it, because I do agree. Like, I hate when I see somebody just rip the same thing over and over and over again. It does cheapen creation.
Yeah. And then, there's videos like I keep seeing that one of that girl like dancing when her kid's in the hospital with RSV.
So cringy.
There's just some stuff like that. Like it's not. Oh my gosh, that kills me. Kills me.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Although
the video's funny.
The stitches where people are like,
John broke his neck.
Yeah. He's been in the water drowning for half an hour and he's like just dancing. Yeah, those are pretty bad. But yeah, it's kind of sad.
Like so easy to put content out there.
Or just like the people, like, just the half naked dancing that is like all over TikTok.
Yeah, it's like, is it productive? Like,
yeah, I don't
know. I don't think you can have fun too, but like at some point it's just.
But I think it's
a lot. It's like constant content.
I think now people just have more access to content. Does that make sense? Like I think people always have created, and I think that was kind of my
easier.
I don't know that it's easier to create.
Put it out for everyone to see.
It's easier to see other people's creations. Yeah. I think is the difference, because like before, I would say that our parents' generation didn't create less. Like, your mom was an artist, there were all sorts of things my mom tried to do. There were plenty of writers out there, plenty of people who, did photography, for instance. Like my dad did photography all growing up, but like now I scroll on Instagram and I see, 10,000 different photographers, you know what I mean? And so it's just, you have access to so much more content.
Do you think there's more value in like that kind of quick content, or like a classic novel that took forever to write, or like film photography that is so hard to get all the settings right and you have to develop it right? And
see, I don't know. I think it's comparing apples and oranges, to be honest, because I do think that there is something like truly valuable about hard work and like genuine struggle. Mm-hmm. And the creation of that, I think, inherently brings value. I think struggle brings value to creation. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there are just some genuinely great quick content out in the world. Like, I don't want to completely, say that it's all just garbage in comparison to, creating a novel like Frankenstein, because I mean, I've laughed so hard, like I've almost peed my pants on some reels that are only like 15 seconds long, you know what I mean? And somebody just does something so funny that is just pure gold in my opinion. So like, I think the filtering out of all the garbage is the hard part. Like, how do you not see so much trashy content and just get to the gold? And unfortunately, there's just not a way to do that, because they just want you to see it all. Yeah. But I do think
this has to do with Frankenstein. Sorry.
Well, I know that was a pretty long tangent, but that was a long tangent in just talking about creation and how important that is, how that's a driving factor, I think, in everyone's lives, and how it can become all consuming. But like you said,
that's like one of the themes is not just how like the desire to create can be all consuming, but the desire for knowledge. I think that's why the captain, Walton, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think that's why he's included, even though it seems kind of unnecessary.
So random.
Because he's like looking for the North Pole or something. Isn't that what he's looking for?
I think so. He's on
like
some
looking for Santa. I don't know. Yeah. It's something. I think it is the North Pole.
He's on an exploration up north. That's all I know. And they're stuck in ice.
Dangerous. Yeah, they're stuck in ice. And Victor Frankenstein warns him, like, don't pursue knowledge to your destruction. Like, yeah, he's like, look what it did to me.
Yeah. No, I can see that. So yeah, the search for knowledge, because that's also, so that is the other, I guess, aspect of it that I never really picked up on, because that is, now thinking about it, what the monster's looking for. Is his journey is the search for knowledge. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And
then I think it all comes back and circles back to responsibility on both sides of those things. It's becoming responsible with the knowledge that you have, which is, and becoming responsible with the creations that you've made. And on both accounts, they failed absolutely miserably. Victor Frankenstein is not responsible at all, and the monster is not responsible at all for anything that he learns.
I was going to ask you if you think the monster is bad. I forgot to ask you. Or if you think it's Victor Frankenstein.
I just think they're both terrible. If I had to peg it on one person, I would peg it on Victor Frankenstein. Again, I think you have to take responsibility for what you make in this life. You got to take responsibility for your family. You got to take responsibility for the the friendships that you make. You got to take responsibility for what you bring to this world, whether it's good or bad. Take responsibility. However, I think that was true probably up, I don't know, until the boy was killed. And then everything after the small boy is killed, I think is Frankenstein's fault. I think he then has a knowledge of good and evil by then, to a point where everything past that is more vindictive than...
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's where everyone disagreed with me.
Yeah, but I do think that Victor is responsible even for the small boy's death. I think after that, though, after he talks to the monster again for the first time since creating him.
Then the monster asks just for...
A side chick.
Yeah.
Not a side chick, a main chick.
Yeah. Shoddy to... Gosh, I hate myself. To just, like, be happy with. He's like, we'll go to South America. I don't know why South America.
I know.
It's like,
we'll
disappear.
How the heck were they getting to South America?
And they're giant. I mean, the monster just shows up wherever he goes. I don't think he has any problem traveling.
But wherever he goes is from, like,
I mean, he
Geneva,
ends up on the ice caps.
I guess to the ice caps. But before then, it's from, like, Geneva to London.
Yeah, I don't know.
To Scotland.
South America.
South America is far.
I don't know why that was.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's like, I'll be gone. But then Victor Frankenstein wouldn't. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think he should have?
I don't know. The internal struggle was real because
Yeah,
I kind of saw both
I
sides.
can't blame him there because he was trying to do good when he's like, I'm not going to create another one of these.
Yeah, like what happens
And he
if
was worried
two of them and then they have babies?
Yeah, he was worried about that.
They kill the whole human race.
Like, what if I started a new race? So I guess I can't blame him there.
Yeah.
So I think he was right that he didn't, but also
Yeah, I mean, a chance to just keep
he was like, I'm not going to do it. Everything's going to be fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to be with you on your wedding night. And he's like, okay, never. No, you aren't.
Yeah, that wasn't the smartest move.
Yeah. I don't know what he thought was going to happen there, but
I don't either. One of the parts that I just wanted to bring up was the travel along the Rhine. Do you have any remember? Do you remember any of that when he talks about traveling, taking the boat up the Rhine, and seeing the castles on either side? All I have to say is I 100% concur with everything that he said. That is the most beautiful place on earth.
I want to go there so bad. At Christmas time.
Oh my gosh. So I lived in like Dusseldorf, which is kind of the end of the Rhine. Well, off the Rhine a little bit, but up towards the end of the Rhine. For probably about a year and a half. And I took that train along that just runs right along the Rhine, right, literally exactly what he was talking about, like through Koblenz, through that whole area, probably about 7 or 8 times. And oh my gosh, I just thought the same things that he did the entire time. I was like, this is so pretty.
Yeah.
Like there's just small little villages tucked up into little valleys, like hidden and behind, different parts of the river, and there's castles. And so all I have to say is if you've got some money and can just take a boat ride up the Rhine, I would highly recommend it.
Say you gotta start making money with this so we can go.
I know. He was talking about it and I was just like, oh my gosh, what I would give to be back. And just, that's really it's not the only part of Germany I want to go back to, but that is the main part of Germany that I want to go see, is I just want to take a boat up the Rhine again because it is so pretty.
There's
it's unbelievable.
Cruise you can do.
It's got to be one of the prettiest places on the earth. Like there are literally, I tried counting once, and just like 20, 30, like just full-blown castles.
That's awesome.
Up on the hill. Like it's amazing. So that part was really fun to read. I liked that because, again, I've seen that quite a bit, and it was nice. Also, and this is kind of jumping all over the place. Do you have any idea what alchemy is?
No. Made the sorcerer's stone.
Nice. I have no idea because I meant to look it up before.
Both times reading it, talking about creating the monster, I'm like, what? And in the movies, it's like electricity, and I don't think that was involved at all, was it? Or did I just not pick up on that?
I don't know. I do know the only thing that I know about alchemy, and I only know 2 things because it talks about it a lot. Basically, Victor Frankenstein. What
you keep saying?
I don't know why I keep calling Victor Frankl. Who is that? He wrote a book.
I don't know.
He wrote Man's Search for Meaning.
Did he?
Yeah. And that's on my list of books to read. And I recommended it to somebody the other day. So I keep thinking Victor Frankl, but it's not. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He did not create a monster. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Victor Frankl, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's on my mind. Victor Frankenstein was more interested in alchemy than he was chemistry when he goes to school. And so, but all the professors made fun of him. So the only 2 things that I know about alchemy were that it was originally intended to try to turn metals into gold so that you can have an endless supply of gold. Mm-hmm. And that there's an anime called Full Metal Alchemist that's pretty good. So it's up there on some of my favorite ones. So those are the only 2 things that I know. I have literally no idea what else it is, but it is.
Sounds like witchcraft.
Early medieval chemists searched for a process to transmute baser metals into gold and to prepare the elixir of longevity. Oh, so they just...
The Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, literally. They tried to create gold and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
And that's all alchemy was. And it was like a really, 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 really early version of chemistry. Okay. Yeah, because they kept talking about that. And I was like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
Switching subjects a little bit. Again, this is all over the place because I'm tired. But... And I really do like this book. But I would want to kind of switch subjects a little bit and talk about Mary Shelley.
Yeah, I wanted to talk
before
about
we have to wrap up here. Because Mary Shelley's nuts.
I didn't know any of that.
I did not know anything about her. She's crazy. I was reading up on her. So first of all, she's old, like way old. Mary Shelley is like one of the original female writers ever, like major pioneer in, you know, kind of the feminist movement. Her mom was actually, I believe, one of the original feminists.
Yeah,
like,
I read that.
Ever. So like the first people of like the women's suffrage movement back in England in the late 1700s. Like her mom was one of the original party members. So she's like an OG pioneer feminist. And then, you know, her daughter turns out to become, you know, debatably one of the greatest, you know, classic female writers of all time. She's written a couple books. And Frankenstein is one of the, you know, probably pioneering horror and science fiction books that's ever come out. I mean, I would say probably on both sides, horror and science fiction, up there in early books to come out. So, I mean, kind of a big deal, but she was also kind of crazy. And everything that I read about her, everybody just started calling her like the OG goth girl because she was nuts. Did you do any research on Mary Shelley?
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is spooky.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I read that she was 17 when she started hooking up with this married man.
Yeah. Which this couple, Mary Shelley and what's his name, Percy?
Yeah.
Really remind me of, and this is, I don't know if this is true, but the entire time all I kept thinking of was Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly.
Megan Fox is older than him.
I know the age has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly are like weird. Like they have each other's.
Together.
I think so.
But
they have like each other's blood.
I saw a tweet that was like, everything I've learned about these two has been against my will. And that's how I feel. I care more about like
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Which couple is more
Taylor
your speed?
Swift and Travis Kelce, but also I don't care about that.
Yeah, my mom cares way too much.
I'm aware
of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
I could not care any less about Machine Gun Kelly and
yeah, but all I know is that they have like each other's
I don't want to talk about them. Okay.
Blood.
I know. But
that's what I think of because I'm like, this is kind of the vibes I'm getting.
Yeah, it's creepy. But so yeah, she was 17. She was like 18 when she wrote Frankenstein.
When she started, yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
I know. When I was 18, I was like barely graduating from high school.
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh. But so she got pregnant at 17, which is the same time that his wife got pregnant. Fun fact.
Yeah. Percy.
Who was when that happens.
Existingly married.
Yeah.
And had a pregnant wife.
But then what I read something, I don't know, again, the internet, I don't know. That her family kicked her out.
I did read that.
And then she lost the baby. Actually, it was a stillbirth.
They kicked her out until she got married to Percy.
Oh, okay. I didn't read that.
Eventually, she was accepted back in, but it was only until she was made an honest woman of herself.
No, okay. Good. After his wife mysteriously died.
Yeah. So his first wife mysteriously dies. Then he marries the 17-year-old who he's been hooking up with. And they basically dated the entire time in a cemetery. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. So they would meet up for their courtship at her mother's grave. And that's how they got to know each other. Is they were just be like, hey, you want to meet at the cemetery? And that's where they like were hanging out until, and the internet was pretty, I don't know, left it up to the reader to decide whether or not that baby also was made in the cemetery.
That's
like it
wholesome.
was, yeah, kind of, again, a very weird relationship.
Anyways, the saying, this like rejection by her family, then losing like her baby. I think I didn't know any of that. And so reading that when I was preparing for this, I was like, okay, she understands what it's like to be abandoned and to be isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really adds a whole, like another,
Well,
another level to the book. Like,
did you read what I posted on Instagram today?
Yeah.
About her like having dreams about her baby being reincarnated and coming back to life and like being alive but not alive.
This adds so much more meaning to the book.
Yeah. And so it was kind of, she was kind of thinking of these themes before she wrote Frankenstein. Or actually, while she wrote Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of living through them.
Yeah. Just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really interesting to read.
Yeah. And then she had 2 other kids who both died when they were toddlers. And then she only had 1 kid that lived
so sad
to be an adult.
So sad.
And then her husband died.
In
like a
pretty young
boating accident or something like that.
Sailing accident. But it said that he was like already sick. That's what I read.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You said his heart was like calcified because he was sick.
Yeah. He had some sort of disease. His heart was calcified. So they went to cremate him.
Yeah. And his heart wouldn't burn.
Which is already, again, like I'm telling you, weird vibes throughout the whole thing because they were, I mean, just a very spooky couple. Again, they courted in a cemetery and then the dude gets burned to a crisp and his heart's still there. So Mary Shelley decides, you know what? I'm just going to keep the thing. And so she kept his heart wrapped up in a couple of his poems because he was a poet, a couple like loose leaf pieces of paper of poems, and just kept it in her desk until she died. She just kept his heart.
Yeah.
Do you love me that much?
No.
You wouldn't keep my heart?
No.
I do want to be cremated, I think.
Keep your ashes.
But I don't want my heart to be burned. I think that's going to be in my will.
Oh my gosh.
I would like to be cremated except for my heart. And then
I would do that with Jim.
Yes. Jimbo, should we keep your heart? Yeah, no, that's really creepy. He was also, that was a weird sound. Sorry. I was going to say he, and then I went to go say she, and then it all just came out as You're good. You can cough.
Well, okay.
And then I was going to say, and he was credited with originally.
Yeah, they thought he wrote it.
Yeah, because they didn't think that she was anything special.
Misogynistic.
I know. Seriously. Her mom's a feminist, and they can't even publish the work underneath her own name.
No.
It's not good. But eventually she was credited with it. And even after she was credited, there were still people that were like,
he wrote it.
I don't think a woman could do
I
that. I know. That's pretty crazy. Have you ever thought about writing?
No.
No? You read a lot. I don't know. I was thinking of like female writers. I was like, there's a lot of them now. But she was definitely a pioneer. Mm-hmm. But you've never had that urge?
No. That'd be too hard.
Too hard?
Yeah.
That's the only reason?
I think the 5 people that listen can tell that I cannot articulate my thoughts into words.
You're a pretty good writer, though.
What have I written?
I don't know, like essays and stuff. I had to like proof some of them.
I wrote this like blog post once that went sort of viral.
Oh yeah, I read that. I read that actually before we dated. Before we even met, I had read that, which is so weird that I had read that. Because that made its rounds around then Facebook. It's like pre-Instagram times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of blew up. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. But yeah, you're a pretty good writer. I mean, I don't know. Never had that urge? Interesting.
Too scared what people think of me.
But you're still on the podcast.
I
had some more.
I stay up all night after thinking, oh my gosh, that was so stupid. Why did I say that? Like now I'm like, now I'm freaking out about what I said earlier about it being Victor Frankenstein's fault, and because everybody disagreed with me, because I do know people who have grown up in not ideal situations and they're still great people. Mm-hmm. I just, so I'm not saying the monster can do whatever he wants, because like you at some point are responsible for your own actions, but I do think as a parent you have a big responsibility.
But you can't make what's the saying? The exceptions aren't the rule, or whatever. So, like there are people that rise to the occasion when they, they're born in like a crack house or whatever, or, whatever. And they end up beating the odds and becoming, a doctor or something like that. Or, people who were abused as children and end up making, good choices, start a family and kind of reverse that cycle. So, those are the odds. And then there's also people who, grew up with great parents and great homes and then decided to throw it all away and, turn to, lives of violence, drugs, whatever it is. However, those are the exceptions, not the rule. I think more often than not, people do fall into the category of, how were they, what was the environment around them? How were they raised? And I think you can see that even just based off like normal statistics for, as sad as it is, but like even, single parent households, kind of the success rate of kids that are raised in single parent households, or, poverty, kind of people who have parents who aren't able to be as involved in their lives because maybe they're working, 1, 2, 3 jobs, just to keep food on the table, and kids then just don't have the ability to be nurtured. Even if they have a parent who's, a good person, if they're not around to teach you, it is hard. Those people statistically end up in worse situations.
Blame the parents if they're trying to work to provide food, and it's just single parent household is not a choice. So.
No, it's just a crummy situation. So but it does
like not fair to say, oh, it's your responsibility,
but I think it is still your responsibility. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And it sucks that some people's responsibilities are so much more than others. That's why you can never really judge.
Yeah, I sound so privileged to grow up in like such a good home and
exactly.
Yeah.
But
and be like, oh, it's this is bad parents' fault, because I had good parents. So it's not fair of me to say like you do have your ability to make your own choices.
But it's a major factor.
But it is, yes.
It is just statistically a major factor, in everybody's development. So, you just got to try to set yourself up and this is where you kind of have to start thinking ahead. Maybe this is something that, Victor Frankenstein could have used a little bit, which would have been a little bit of planning, like a what if this all works out? You know what I mean? Like, what if I actually do create this monster? Like, what is going to happen?
Yeah.
And that was not part of his creation. He was so focused on the creating aspect that he didn't kind of have that, forethought into like, okay, well, what's the plan after?
Kind of had this God complex. It was kind of all about him and his ego.
Exactly. And didn't think at all about kind of the repercussions or the responsibilities of creating something like that. And so, maybe that's something that also plays a factor into it too. You've got to be able to have a little bit of that, forethought, that planning into what if, because, there are situations where, you kind of maybe have to time things different, be prepared for what you're bringing into this world, whether that be a family, a relationship, friendships, art, content, whatever it is, you got to be ready for the what ifs of what happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was kind of my thought. He didn't really take that next step and think about that at all.
Yeah. And then he just abandoned ship when it didn't go right.
Yeah. Or when it did go right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's when it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. When it worked out, he abandoned ship because that was when he didn't really have
Kind
a
of
plan.
bugged me is, sorry, keep going.
I was about to say, he just didn't have a plan for like, oh crap, I actually succeeded. You know, sometimes people are so used to failing and failing and failing and failing that they have no plan for what happens when they succeed. You know, I mean, there are plenty of people that think they're going to fail, and then succeed, and then wash it all down the drain because they have no plan for what happens when they succeed.
Something that bugged me is like when things went poorly, Victor felt like violently ill. Like every time. He was like ill most of the book.
I don't know why.
And it bugged me.
Who were you saying that you would cast as him if they did like
Dan Stevens, who reads it.
Oh man, his voice is buttery.
Which he did, and then there were none. Which is the other one we did.
Buttery.
He's so good.
What else is he in? Because
Downton Abbey.
I don't watch Downton. I'm not a Downton guy. No, because I'm thinking of who I would cast for it now, and just somebody who I think would just fall ill every time something bad happens to him, and all I think of is Timothy Chalamet. I think he would kill it.
That's actually.
He's
really
like
good.
kind of scrawny. He's got like the weird hair that's all like frazzled.
He's a good actor.
He's a good actor. He's got an accent.
That is actually really good.
And then he'd just be sick all the time because he's so skinny.
He's good at marrying his sister.
Yeah, he marries his sister. It's not really her sister.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's
like the Cullen family.
It's like you marry your stepsister. That's really what it was. It was really
He married his adopted sister.
Adopted sister. Yeah, even weirder.
The Cullens.
Yeah.
That's what they do in Twilight.
Again, I had this conversation with Nicole. I'll have it with you. I have not read Twilight,
so they
and I probably never will.
Adopt all these. I mean, they don't really because they're like all vampires. They're like all 200 years old, but
yeah.
Because they keep going to high school because, you know, why would you not if you were eternal? Why would you not just keep going to high school?
That sounds amazing.
And their story is that they fostered all these kids and adopted them, and then they all couple up. And everyone's like, oh, cool.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is
I'd love to see it.
That is what happens. But I think Timothy Chalamet.
That is really good, actually.
I think he would be spot on.
I don't know why this hasn't been a good movie.
Sick people. No, because they could do it really well.
Yeah. They could make it scary. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why.
No, because it's a great story.
Yeah. And it's old. Mm-hmm. Like Pride and Prejudice has been redone how many times? Or Jane Eyre has been redone how many times?
I think Frankenstein's been done like a million times
just never
too.
done right.
But never done right. Yeah. No. Why do something right?
And maybe there hasn't. I haven't seen it.
I don't know. Again, the only one that I can think of is Young Frankenstein, and it basically has the same feel as Spaceballs, so probably not the same kind of thing.
I think I've seen Hotel Transylvania, and that's it. Johnny Stein.
Hey, there's a Frankenstein with Robert De Niro and Kenneth Branagh.
Maybe we should watch it before.
Oh, dude, it has Helena Bonham Carter as Elizabeth.
She's in creepy movies, so maybe it's good.
I know. Here we're judging people for never making a good Frankenstein. We haven't even seen them.
Well, I don't even know what the... Oh, that's kind of...
Yeah, it doesn't look half bad.
Maybe we'll have to try that.
It's got a 6 out of 10 stars, though. Then you got like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Frankenstein meets Wolf Man.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I do remember this one came out recently, and it got 5 stars.
Another one with Daniel Radcliffe.
That's the one. What's it? Victor Frankenstein with
like
Daniel.
Igor.
Yeah.
And
who's Igor?
He's not. Yeah.
Because Igor's in a lot of them too.
He's not in the book at all.
Then you got Frankenstein's army. Frankenstein's been done so many times.
But like weird.
I know, weird. Never like the original Frankenstein Unbound. Frankenstein created woman. The Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein. Yeah. No, I think they should remake it. And I'm calling right now for Timothy Chalamet to play Victor Frankenstein.
Would be really good, actually.
I think he'd kill it. He's the right age. Going off to college. He kind of looks that age.
He's older than that.
I know he's older than that, but he looks that age. He also looks like he could be, like 15.
He's such a good actor, though.
He plays the 15-year-old in Dune. the main character in Dune, whatever his name is.
Paul
Atreides.
Why do I know that?
I don't know. I just finished that book like a month ago.
I hate that movie.
Yeah, Paul Atreides is 15 in the book or something like that. So, I mean, he plays him well.
Yeah.
So, he could play a 20-year-old.
He plays Laurie really well in Little Women.
Yeah, he'd kill it.
Really well. I love that Little Woman.
I think he'd kill it. He's playing Wonka here pretty soon.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah. But, yeah. Anything else that you'd like to add to Frankenstein?
Well, I was just going to ask you, because you were talking about like reading Stephen King, and you read that one with Nicole. Like, you've read a lot of horror this month, and you usually don't do horror. Like, I can't get you to watch The Sixth Sense. Do you think that horror, like, do you think that there are lessons to be learned in horror?
Yes.
And why do you think it's a good genre to learn lessons from?
Because other people make terrible mistakes. Well, I think that's one thing. But also, I'm starting to just kind of appreciate horror as like a, I mean, I don't know, as a genre. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but like I have thoroughly, and I will expand into this in the next episode, but I have thoroughly enjoyed the Stephen King books that I read. I have liked him as an author way more than I thought I would. I was originally like thinking he was, I mean, this is going to sound real bad, but I originally thought he was going to be like some cheap hack because he just writes so many books. Like, how can they all be good? You know what I mean? But honestly, I have really enjoyed some of these books. Like, really, really enjoyed some of his books. Misery was amazing.
Not really.
Yeah, like so good. And The Stand, like, I'm really actually sad that The Stand, I lost the Libby book for it. And that is one that I probably will buy because it has been so fun. Like, I have really, really enjoyed it. And I think there's just something about not having any rules that makes it so that you can just write whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, in a horror story, there aren't any rules to science, to the way people act, to the way that people react, to basically like logic, anything like that. So like Stephen King can create these scenarios because he can create demons, he can create monsters, he can create people who are truly evil, who have literally no good inside of them. And he can create these situations because there are no rules. You don't have to have somebody who's got like a moral compass, or you don't have to like obey the laws of physics or obey the laws of, real life and everything like that. And so it kind of opens up the spectrum of what he can write. And they have just so creative and have made it so that like you really can't see what's coming. It's really fun in that aspect, and that like you really don't know what's going to be coming around the corner. And that's been my experience so far.
Well,
and there are some that are better than others. I will say that.
I don't read horror. I don't do horror.
You couldn't do Misery.
Frankenstein is like the only one. But I think horror is so popular, and why you can learn lessons from it is because emotions are so heightened. And that is one reason. And I also saw this quote while I was like looking about stuff for this book. It's by Sean. It's spelled Coyne. I have no idea who that is, but I thought this quote was good. It says, "The horror story is a primal The horror story is a primal external genre, an allegory for the horrific world we presently or could soon inhabit. It serves as a prescriptive or cautionary tale about how to best metabolize our darkest fears and survive. The power gap between the monster and the victim is immense, and thus the victim who raises the courage to confront the force with all of their inner genius to their last breath inspires us to do the same. To win is to survive."
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And like, it's not just winning over the things that we know. And that's what makes it so cool. It's like, you can create something completely unknown that like your mind has never even wrapped around before. And then you have to overcome it in the book. You know what I mean? It's not just like overcoming World War II, which obviously is crazy hard and like crazy, like no one person could overcome something like that. There are many people who didn't overcome it. It's crazy. But like I've learned about World War II a lot throughout my life. And so I kind of have ideas as to, what all the dark sides of World War II were. I've thought about it a lot. Whereas while reading a horror book, you're confronted with things that you've never, ever thought of before. And you learn while reading how to overcome those, if that makes sense.
So I was thinking about that quote in relation to Frankenstein, like overcoming the monster. Frankenstein is so unique and such a good book to make you think because he creates the monster he has to overcome. So it's like not just this external force he has to overcome. He has to overcome his own mistake and his own, his ego and this unquenchable thirst for knowledge and power and creation. That's kind of what makes, Frankenstein just one of a kind.
I agree. I like that. I like that a lot. So I guess we'll leave it with that.
You just cut the whole episode to that. Because
cut that. That was amazing.
Everything else I said was so bad.
No, it wasn't. This was a good episode. I don't know what you're talking about. Since when no one in book
club likes me.
Yeah, well, we all have our crosses to bear. What would you rate Frankenstein on a scale of 1 to 5 for importance and 1 to 5 for fun?
For importance, 5. I think it is very important. I think a 5 for fun. It is good.
I think that's what I'm going to go to. 5 and 5. It's one of the few books that I think I'm going to give a 5 and a 5.
It's creepy, but it's what's the word I'm looking for?
Perfect.
Intuitive, like it makes you think, like it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's relatable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a book that you can internalize a lot. It's very quotable. Mm-hmm. And it's very fun. And it was just, again, it was written in 1818. Mm-hmm. Like, that's insane. 1818? That's crazy. Like, the United States has been around for 50 years. Like, how crazy is that? So very, very, very important book written by someone who is, monstrously, pun intended, influential throughout, all of the literary universe when it comes to, female writers, when it comes to the horror genre of science fiction. It all definitely 5 out of 5 for me. 100% would recommend.
Yep.
All right. Anything else that you've got for the podcast?
Nope.
Anybody you want to call out for them to be guests?
No.
Come on. Because if we don't if we don't have guests, then guess who is my guest?
After the negative comments start rolling in, you might want to rethink that.
No, we haven't had any negative comments yet, so we're still good. Granted, we haven't had a whole lot of positive comments either, but any comments in general would be greatly appreciated. But for those of you who are still listening, please make sure to like the video, comment positively. That would be helpful. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you are listening on any of the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, really any of them, we're on all of them. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps with us growing. And then tell your friends, because we're looking for 2 things here at the Blackley podcast. We're looking for
a nanny.
No. We're looking for more listeners. So tell your friends. We're also looking for podcast guests. So if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or somebody who loves to read, or maybe even somebody who doesn't love to read, but you would like them to read or should read, shoot me a message. Let me know. We can get them on the podcast. We can choose a book. I've got a list of books to choose from, or I definitely take recommendations. Also, if you have any book recommendations for the upcoming months, I'm looking for happy books, I think, for a little bit. So I want to read some good ones that are just feel-good, happy books. So make sure to shoot me some recommendations. Go ahead and comment those in the YouTube video if you have those, or comment on Instagram and leave me a couple books to read. Again, looking for kind of happier, more upbeat books. Also, maybe some nonfiction / self-help books. Kind of switch things up. We haven't done a lot of those books yet. Kind of feeling a little bit burnout on some of the just fiction genre in general. Want to shake it up a little. So let me know. Thanks.